quorum, so let's get started with the.
Let's wait a sec, you gotta see your mug up here first.
Oh, okay.
You ready, Mike?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. Okay, we'll call the Tree Advisory Commission, July 19th, 2017 to order. Can you do something? Okay, good. All right, so we've got our agenda in front of us, and let's do some introductions. Let's start with Tom down there.
Tom Schmitz, Park and Recreation Department, and advisory member.
Shane Omersa, member of the Minnesota Green Corps in the Urban Forestry Track.
Lisa Langer, 1300 Oak Street, board member.
Arlen Body, board member.
Wayne Shopper, board member.
Tom Romaine, board member.
William Swanson, Energy Services.
Kirk Curry, Public Works Superintendent.
Steve Kaler, City Engineer.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, let's take a look at the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Are there any amendments or additions or corrections or subtractions?
Maybe under new business, I was approached by Ann Vogel to have a representative at, I think it's called Goose Town Days. So maybe we can add that.
Sure.
We just got started. Yep.
Okay. Are you making that a motion or in addition to the agenda?
In
Okay,
addition.
very good. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Agenda is approved as presented with the addition of one more item. Let's take a look at the May 4th minutes. I assume everyone's had a chance to read those over. Let's just take a moment and review the minutes of our May 4th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. All right, moving on, let's take a look at old business first. City tree reimbursement program, budget 2017 actual, 2018 request. And my notes here say $6,120 is 2% over 2017. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a spreadsheet entitled 2017 Tree Advisory Commission Reimbursement Program in your packet, which is outdated, unfortunately, and Tom just passed, I believe Tom passed an updated one around that's fairly accurate. In terms of the agenda item, let me get back to that quick. The tree reimbursement program, first, the upper portion of that lists the number of trees that have been planted and the subsequent reimbursement from the city tree reimbursement program. There's been a total of 18. Toward the bottom, you can see the totals. The total cost of $3,183, total reimbursement of about $1,840, and giving the balance available about $2,460 according to your original budget for this year. So we're a little bit behind from the last couple of years, but fall again generally is a busy time for reimbursements. Any questions on the program? If not, I could go right into the 18 request, if you prefer, Mr. Chairman. A couple things passed around. Mr. Schmitz passed around the 17 approved budget, which also includes a 2016 carryover of about, for a total of $11,800. And also at the bottom of that tree program schedule, it reflects that $11,800. And then there's the actual amount used, which totals up to $63.73, and gives us a balance of 54, or gives you a balance of approximately $5,400. This year, we've had pretty much standard usage in terms of the home show cost and printing costs. We have an exception to the rule in that we had some Green Corps expenses that, Shane has been doing some things, and we appreciate his hard work, so we've had a few expenses attributed to that. So for the 2018 budget request, I've passed around a little spreadsheet with some of my chicken scratches on it. I don't know how you want to approach it, Mr. Chair. I just left the same 6,000 there. The diseased and boulevard tree program in the subcategories, I reduced to 2,400, and you can certainly change these. We have been averaging about 2,000 the last few years, so that might be an opportunity to move some of it down to the Green Corps expenses, assuming that we're going to get another position. So how you want to categorize the subcategories is kind of up to you, but this could get it done if you wanted to stay at the same amount.
Okay. Commissioners, what are your feelings, comments, feedback?
We really haven't had any expenses in the tree pest policy and education area. Of course, that could change. Printing and pamphlets have stayed about $350, $400. Home show has been about $200. So I think this is doable.
Okay.
And if you do act on this, we would forward this to the finance director at the end of July for the preliminary budget request.
Mr. Chair, members, I don't see any problems with this budget, the way it's laid out and the way it's been explained. The 3,000, obviously, that is for Green Corps expenses depends on, where that's at. But given that, we can always take that and apply it to a different category. So what I would say is, in light of where we're at right now with the Green Corps, I would make the motion to use this as the 2018 template for the Tree Advisory Commission budget.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the budget as amended. All in favor?
Aye?
Opposed?
Excuse me, Chair,
Yes.
could we have a discussion?
Discussion, sorry.
Okay. I just want to make the commission aware of this, that your budget request has basically been flat for quite a number of years at $6,000. And we all know that the consumer price index has not remained flat over that time period. So you may consider a modest increase in request of 1%, 2%, 3%, but that's entirely up to you.
Do we anticipate any carryover from 2017 to 2018?
Mr. Chair, I could maybe attempt to answer that question. You've got a $5,400 balance now, so it's unlikely that you would use the remainder of that. So you could, if there's something left over at the end of the year, you could request a carryover. I guess I would caution the commission that last year there was a discussion among the city council that they were reluctant to continue with this carryover year after year after year, so it's not a guarantee, but it certainly looks like there would be something available to at least request a carryover.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, in light of fiscal responsibility, I think it's prudent to just keep it as it is without the any increases with regards to general year-to-year increases in costs. But I would also add the caveat that we would strongly urge the city council to continue funding us at the current pace, especially given the fact that we're going into some new areas. We're possibly going to have expenses that are going to come up that we may need that money, and to use it for some other purpose is not advised by this Tree Advisory Commission, and that's just I can't speak on behalf of the other commissioners on that, but that's my feeling on it, and so I would like to see the money stay at the same rate being that we do have that carryover, and I would also discourage them from, dipping into the carryover as well, so.
I just want to say,
Yes.
I have concern about us always having a carryover, because I'm concerned that the city council is going to say, well, you don't need that money. Why are we always having a carryover? Why don't we spend our money every year? I mean, there are places we can plant trees in this city, and why are we not doing that? If we keep, we've got $5,000, well, people look at that and say, you don't need that big of a budget. So I just assume, would rather we spend our money every year and not do
Mr. Chair,
carryovers.
Commissioners, I'd like to respond to that, and I think that you bring up a valid point. However, a rainy day fund for any commission, for any purpose, in the light of emerald ash borer, other potential things like gypsy moth and other areas that we have no idea of what will come down the pike. And I'm not saying it isn't money that we shouldn't be aggressively trying to utilize. I'm just saying that there are unforeseen circumstances, and given our budget, I think it's not, it's not too much to ask to continue to have a solid budget that will support anything that could come up. I look at it as an insurance policy. So that's once again my feelings on that. It's not. I don't reflect the entire board at all.
And maybe, and I understand your point, and that's valid as well, but maybe to get $6,000 a year and have a $5,000, that's almost the whole budget. I mean, maybe we do keep some money in there for a rainy day fund, so to speak. So.
Well, once we're defunded, that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been down this path before with government entities, and when you lose the funding,
Right.
It rarely ever comes back. So I'm a staunch one for keeping it as it is. However, in the light of what Mr. Schmitz talked about as far as an increase, I don't think we need that. But I don't think we should be so short-sighted as to defund any part of the tree commission whatsoever. Take a hard line on that. So.
Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote on the motion. And you want to restate that, Commissioner Sprungman?
Sure. I vote to, as it's been presented in its modified version here with all the chicken scratch and stuff. And it's very good chicken scratch because I can read it. Yeah, it's good. But I made a motion, and I'm reiterating the motion to have the Tree Advisory Commission for 2018 reflect the document that's in front of us with the $6,000 allocation, broken down to $2,400 for diseased and boulevard tree programs, home show booth expenses $200, printing and pamphlets $400, and Green Corps expenses $3,000.
Okay, we do have the motion. The motion was seconded. So let's vote. All in favor of this motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. So this will be submitted next week, or by the end of July, you mentioned?
Mr. Chair, it's due at the finance office at the end of July, and then they package this together. I'm not certain. It'd probably be a few weeks or a month before it goes in a preliminary budget to the city council.
Excellent. Thank you. Very good. All right. Item B under old business, PUC, Tree Reimbursement Programs and Budget 2017-18. Mr. Swanson?
All right. Commissioners, if you just scroll down in the packet, you'll see currently we have about $567 spent for tree rebates so far this year. And then under that is just customers who have filed for a rebate, and I believe most of these have been pre-approved, but the plantings haven't been completed, so it's unknown the dollar amount and in some case types of trees. I think given the processing list here that we're probably on track for hitting around the $3,000 mark for total spending for trees. And then I guess I don't know if there's any questions pertaining to the rebates currently processed or this year's funding. If there's no questions on that portion, I'd like to just give a brief statement about potential funding for the 2018 year. Looking at our previous 3 years budgeting, I got an average of around $3,200 for rebate spending. I would think we may or may not have some additional advertising costs that goes through the public utilities. My initial estimates would be that a proper funding level for the relief program would be around $3,500 for conservation improvement spending. Certainly I could welcome any feedback from the commissioners on that topic, and we may discuss with the Energy Awareness Commission for future years as well. And then also as far as the rebate structure, I would guess that we will leave the dollar amount the same, 2/3 of the cost up to $75.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Do we need, I don't think we need to make a motion or anything on that to accept that, or what's?
I would say not,
Great.
not for this commission. That would be,
Okay.
kind of final decision would be with Energy Awareness Commission and Public Utilities.
Sounds good. Okay, we're at old business, item C, buckthorn removal volunteer program update. Van Cura, it says.
Ellen Vancura, 833 Cottonwood Street. Since the last meeting, there's been 91 hours of volunteer work put into buckthorn removal. 36 of those were sentenced to serve, and other volunteers so 91 hours. Most of it has been on continued removal on the bike trail at South Market Park. So that was incredibly heavily infested, and now we're actually on the second growth part, which is much more labor intensive. It's basically weeding the forest floor. Because as soon as you remove, the trees, then it all springs up, and it's a solid carpet of the second growth. But we're getting a handle on that. I've been asking for at least a year for a helper, and hopefully more than one, because it's working out very well. She started 2 weeks ago, and we've probably put in 15 hours together, which is, instead of 15, we've got 30 hours of work. So, and it's much more pleasant to do it with someone, and she's just the right person. So I guess that's, and hopefully maybe there's a few more people. So if you know anyone who's a hard worker and likes to work outside, I'm still looking for the right people. Any questions? Let's talk about the problem with private property owners. That's always, last meeting, I talked about a quarter of the bike trail is privately owned, and have not done anything more about that. I've been working personally on 2 very difficult properties. The reason why I've wanted to do work is because they had an incredible amount of buried trees, and I have removed a lot of, anyway, that's an ongoing, and I haven't talked to Tom about it. So that private property removal tends to be uncooperative of private property owners, tends to be a big issue as far as ridding New Ulm of buckthorn. So not easily solved. and handled case by case.
What's your largest challenges regarding that?
The private property?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, not to make enemies, and first of all, to get permission. It's, for the one property, it's the second round, and it's kind of ongoing. Zero communication, and now there's this huge amount of very mature trees that are kind of out in the open, and I haven't, again, discussed it with Tom. And there's adjoining property, and I tried to meet with adjoining property people, and there was a death in the family, so that kind of got put up. Basically, you just be real gentle, but I do feel good about the millions of seeds that we cut down before they turned ripe. And see, July they're all out. You can see the berries in June, and you can see them real easily in July, and they have not turned, so it's real. So I feel really good about that. The other is a commercial property that I've talked to 2 times. The owner would not even come out from the back room to talk to me, and handed the little buckthorn back to me twice. And third time I went, and this is over 2 years, he said, "You can take it out. Just bring some in to show me what it is." Well, I've got that 2/3 done. I want to get it done this week yet. And then I'm going to talk to Tom about possibly writing a letter and asking for some reimbursement. Won't be possible with that other case, but so it's interesting.
Mr. Chair, members, what is the commitment of the city of New Ulm to the degree of buckthorn that they are willing to put up with or have? I'm not a big one on private property regulations and such, but where is the discussion at the city council level or somewhere where is there a potential for an ordinance? I mean, is that something that we need to have if we're not getting the cooperation of people? Ultimately, maybe an ordinance has to be adopted that says, if you have this, or whether it's this or garlic mustard or whatever it is,
a big one.
if the city has a policy towards that, that would make volunteers' efforts a lot less disturbing to me. It sounds like you shouldn't have to.
No.
You shouldn't have to go through the process of apologizing and saying to people, this is what we should be doing, and explaining it and all that. You get to a certain point, it really comes down to what the city wants to have as its policy towards these things. If we're serious about it, I think that question should be put out there to our elected officials and ask them what they think.
Well, we did go, I've brought to the council several ideas. One is that you couldn't sell a piece of property without having removed the buckthorn first, and now the garlic mustard, and that's against the law. I am going to talk to people are getting wise, and these people will not talk to me, so I give them messages on the phone. But it is true that if you have buckthorn or garlic mustard and you're buying woods, it degrades the buckthorn and garlic mustard degrade the value of the property. And I'd like to talk to the realtors because, anyway. And then we try to, state law, it's just, buckthorn is just one below level where you can't do much. So every suggestion I've brought here, we can't, and the city attorney said we really can't force anybody to do it.
Well,
but it's, I do say, if you don't take it out, and there's these 3 hugely difficult, well, one is going to get solved, but I hope we get reimbursed for it. The other 2 are extremely difficult, have a huge amount. There's a lot less on one, But it doesn't seem to matter that if everybody doesn't take it out, it'll all just come back.
Mr.
And it's to
Chairman,
getting a control of it, like we do with dandelions. That's my, if we could just get it, we don't get rid of dandelions, but dandelions aren't a problem. They don't kill trees either, so.
Mr. Chair, members, just a quick
Yeah,
observation. Realistically, whoever told you that about the state saying, whatever, we can always have a stronger law at the local level than what is at the state level, okay? And the second part of it is having a situation where where a private citizen is
Yeah.
you know.
Right. It's a
It
very
just-
awkward thing.
It's not right.
But, no, it's not right. It isn't right because, I think private property ownership comes with responsibility. But it's the same as a farmer taking it out of their shelter belts. But the soybean aphid helped with that.
Right, but we have noxious weed laws for rural areas, and we can have the same thing here in the city limits of New Orleans.
Well, we did this round, and I'm certainly willing to bring it up again. In fact, I'll use this opportunity. I would like, first of all, it would be nice to have an ordinance that you can't sell a piece of property as long as there's garlic mustard or buckthorn on it. So, let's just stick with buckthorn because that's But unfortunately, this most difficult property is also covered with garlic mustard. So it was. So anyway, and then it would be nice if there could be a city ordinance that you must remove buckthorn from your property if you have it. Because there's certainly, you're not going to get someone like me who thinks it's sort of fun to do it and likes it because it's the right thing to do to save trees. Come along again, or somebody. I don't know. It's hard to put it in a realistic way, but I just to even get people to a helper to. Get me a helper. I now I have one, and I'd sure like to have 2 or 3, because literally we are weeding the forest floor. With the Sense to Serve did on the bike trail, it was so thick that all there is buckthorn seeds, and I'd say there's probably right now where we Sense to Serve took out a couple Saturdays ago. There's probably 5,000. Buckthorn seeds in the 2 to 6 leaf stage. Well, you know what? It's a lot to go out and literally weed the forest floor is what you need to do now, because that's a whole lot easier than anything. So the secondary clean out is a huge thing, and that's kind of where we're at. Yet we still have a significant amount of, actually, we've been at this long enough. There's a whole lot less buckthorn in New Ulm than there was, and a lot less. But, now's the time to you just have to keep at it and problem solve. I would love some sort of regulation that people do, that removing invasive species, and we designate what they are, to buy and sell property. So. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on down the agenda, item D under old business, garlic mustard update, Mr. Gardner.
I got a little picture show here, if I can get it going here. Maybe you'd want to go on to something else.
Oh, okay. Should we just...
how to do this.
All right, we'll address the next item on the agenda. Minnesota Green Corps. Who wants to lead the discussion on that? Shane, or?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So a little update on the tree inventory. We are working on the parks portion of this. And as I've said before, we'll move on to the streets afterwards. So the schedule as we kind of have it right now is we meet on 1 day a week, and that may change to 2 in the future. But we've been meeting at the public cemetery, and then the rest of the time, my volunteers either go on their own or as a group and kind of work at their own pace and their own schedule.
Okay.
And so we currently have 5 parks remaining of the park that I had planned. And the public cemetery is nearing completion. In my time being here and working on the inventory, there's been over 1,500 trees inventoried, and volunteers have contributed over 760 trees. And so that's just in about 2 months, so that's impressive, I think. And so I'd just like to take a moment right now just to thank all of my volunteers for all of their hard work and for coming out and just keeping at it. And I hope that they'll continue into the fall. And hopefully I'll be here to keep it going. So in addition to the inventory, there's also the self-inventory. I have about 231 roughly have been returned in paper form, and I think maybe about 130 have completed one online. And so I'm hoping that will continue into the fall, and we can maybe get to about around 1,000. I think that would be best. For a total for trees right now from the self-inventory, there's 1,845 trees. So this is just private property. The highest had been in the over 26 inches in diameter class, and the lowest is between 21 and 25 inches. Between all the classes, the top 3 most prevalent species have been fairly consistent between maples, ash, and spruce. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So that's what I have for the first part. So section 2 and 3, I'm gonna combine between nursery and tree planting and planning. In the tree plantings portion of this packet, you can see the maps, aerial photos of the expected plantings. We have about 71 trees that should be going out maybe between the end of this month into the fall. Half are bare trees that we have in our newly completed gravel bed, and then half are in containers. So I'll be working with the Park and Rec maintenance crews to get a good schedule for getting those in the ground. Item 4, the EAB plan. What I have contained in the packet is a draft, the first of many, I'm sure, as we kind of go through the process of it becoming more refined with more input, and also as the inventory goes further along. But it's available there for you to read through and provide any feedback that you have. It is let me see here. So it addresses some options that are available to the city right now and scenarios for preparation prior to EAB arrival, and then also after a confirmation had been made. And so it's a main point here is that it assumes that property owners will be solely responsible for trees in the streets, boulevards, in the right of way, and on their own properties. So that's all I have on the EAB plan for right now. I would say it's up for input now, and I could have another draft completed by the next commission meeting. And then the last item 5 that I have something to report on is the urban forestry program assessment and report outline. A little while back, I had sent a questionnaire out to city departments, just asking them about their involvement with trees. And so I've gotten many of those back, and so I'm in the process now of reviewing it. And so the what I get back from that will be included into this final report that I'll have for you by the next meeting. So that just kind of a brief outline here. I could talk about what I've done in the past year, give a summary, and give some highlights and numbers in the next month. Then there will be the results of the questionnaire, and then a third section would be about recommendations and a future outlook. And I could also make changes and additions based on the commission's input.
Okay, any questions, comments from the commissioners?
I just had one comment on the North Park, and I don't mean to get nitpicky, but I used to spend many, many, many hot days at North Park at those baseball fields, and there were never any shade trees where the people are. So I looked at the plan, and it seemed like the trees are positioned in the outfield or the outer perimeter.
Mm-hmm.
And I always wondered why there weren't more trees in the center where the people gather. So that's just a comment.
Sure. I do know that recently a new batting cages have been put in also.
Mhm.
That taken up some of the space. So that kind of restricts our ability to put trees closer to people. But I think that aerial photo might not display all of the trees that have been recently put in the last year or two. But certainly in the future, I think we could definitely do some more plantings. elsewhere.
Like where that concession area is, and
Mhm.
I always know we were always very hot there.
Okay.
And there wasn't any shade.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or feedback? Okay, thank you for the report, Sheen. And let's go back to item D, garlic mustard with Mr. Gardner. Ready to go?
Yeah, well, I just made up this little slideshow. My name is Joe Gartner. I'm at 1409, I think, South Payne Street in New Ulm here. And I've been kind of working on garlic mustard for 3 years now. And first one, invasives do not recognize property lines. That's the whole problem. You know, how do you get everybody to cooperate? And that includes the state park and the city and the roads and the neighbors, and that's tough. Anyway, here's the appearance, May 20th in one spot. So imagine that's in your woodland next to your house. What are you going to do about it? That's 100% garlic mustard covering the forest there. And it was about chest high. And there are a bunch of different spots in the New Ulm area that are exactly like that. And if it would just stay there, that would be fine. But, you know, we get some rain and water flows through that area. The seeds move. We get deer moving through there. Maybe somebody thinks that mowing or cutting it would be helpful. And they take some stuff back with their mowers. People walk through it looking for morel mushrooms, which is a little late for that. But, you know, there's all sorts of ways it spreads. And that's part of the problem. So here they are. I think the biggest ones are, you know, that people bring in the seeds and then the deer spread it. Doesn't have to be deer. Even white-footed deer mice can spread it. I've found garlic mustard growing up in the little, not in places up in trees that the only thing I can think of that can get them there is mice and other animals. And of course, flowing water, which we have some of in the area. Tires, off-road vehicles, mountain bikes, stuff like that. This is the worst time of year because the seeds are shedding now. So if you're out picking them up or any of these other things are picking them up, they're able to be spread. Something the park should have, and maybe the city park, I'm talking about the state park, but also city parks where it shows up is a cleaning station and at least a little bit of a sign saying that we have it, watch out for it, don't take it home. Some places out east have little bags that you can get out of a this has got a paper thing in it, the little where it says garlic mustard is bad. There's a little handout in there, you know, that would be good to make people aware of it. Some places have gone to the next step where instead of having the doggy do bags, they have the garlic mustard bags, and they encourage it if you see a plant or two, you know, pull it and bag it right away. Here's the deal. If you could go back to New Ulm in 1870 and look at what the vegetation looked like then and the vegetation looks like now, you would notice that we have had a severe decline in natural vegetation. The number of plants per square meter, the different types would be a lot less. And a lot of our plants in our woodlands in the city here are low quality. They're buckthorn, motherwort, burdock, thistle, garlic mustard, stinging nettles, you name it. There are some high quality areas in near the city that you can go to and actually see what they look like. You know, I don't have Dames Rocket here either. Dames Rocket. So anyway, during this year, I went to 16 counties and looked at what their situation was. And part of it was an education thing about garlic mustard. There was only one. Olmsted County was the only county that seemed like they knew what was happening and were doing something about it. The other counties is like, isn't that the stuff that makes your skin? Yeah. They were thinking of wild parsnip. Yep. And then I reported new sightings. There's a national reporting site. And where possible, I pluck some of it out. Unfortunately, the invasion curve, you know, you were talking about trying to do something about it, which is, I mean, that's great. That's what we need to do. But down here is the perfect place to do it at the lower end of the curve, where it says introduction and then detection. That's where you only have a little bit of it. You can go out and spray it or pull it or whatever. Unfortunately, we're halfway up the curve now, where eradication is going to be very difficult. I won't say unlikely, but very difficult. And we're actually going up to Roman numeral 3, where if it's in a park or a certain spot, you know, like my piece of property, yeah, maybe I can keep it out of there. So, wait a second here, I don't have. So here's the report, Nels Park. I went around the edge of Nels Park and pulled garlic mustard back in May or June. There wasn't very much of it. But looking across the border into the state park, I saw some pretty massive amounts of it within 30 or 40 feet. And also there's a couple homeowners that are kind of between the park road and Nels Park. There was a little bit in there. So I'd really like to see some type of partnerships develop. If the two adjoining landowners are interested and the park is interested, that could be controlled there. South Park, I went into that in late May, and I thought, wow, there's a lot of weeds in here. But I decided to pull all the garlic mustard. So I got about 24 bags of garlic mustard. And that was I was ending that just about the time it was purple with Dame's Rocket, and people were saying, oh, it's just beautiful. And it is. It was beautiful. That's all invasive stuff too. And if you go in there now, there's catnip like mad. So there's still garlic mustard there because there's younger plants that are coming up. But where my son and I pulled it last year and we went back to those same spots, there was very little or a lot less. So that's a good sign. But there needs to be a massive plan for that park. And the big thing is to reduce the weeds and the weed seed base, and that would take maybe 3 to 5 years and then try to restore it. Adams Park. We started pulling the front part of that park where it was lightly infested, and that worked okay. Got back to the back part, it was like, it was bad. And bad enough so I couldn't do it. I mean, if you get enough people involved, you can get rid of it anywhere, but that's the problem. The bike trail, Ellen, I think's mentioned that she's found some there. Yeah, at the very least, the city should be promoting more about invasive species and saying, look for these, and if you have only a few of them, for sure, get rid of them right now. That's the way it is with garlic mustard. One plant allowed to go to seed produces 3,500 seeds. Well, so there's some plants that produce 250,000 seeds. They don't germinate very well. Garlic mustard germinates very well. And unfortunately, we're in one of the best locations in Minnesota for it. So here's part of my bags here. 168 bags, they're not all shown here. And my idea is, how do you get rid of it? Because if you don't get rid of the seed, you don't get rid of the problem. So when I pulled it, and a few people were helping me pull it, we stuffed it into bags. I put them in my garage. I dried them out. When the sun was shining, I moved them out in my trailer and physically to dry them down as much as possible. Then I took them to the tree dump, not I repeat, not the composting site. Took them to the tree dump and burned them. And so pretty much sure, I was very careful to load on a bunch of wood and get the temperature up and get rid of them. I don't know what's going on now. But, almost done here. So I think early detection and rapid control for any invasive species. And if you see a few of them, get them. And the other step is, what do you do for the major infestations? I can't do that. Ellen can't handle that. You can't handle that. It takes a massive effort. And so what other places have done is organize a SISMA. A SISMA is a Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area. The closest one is at Redwood County. And there's one up by Duluth that's been organized. And they try to get as many groups together to work on these massive problems as possible. I don't know about funding. There might be some kind of funding available. But obviously adopt an early detection, rapid control plan for those places that aren't infested. There's a bunch of city parks I haven't found it in yet, garlic mustard. So let's try to keep it out of those areas. And if you own property, check out, around your home. We should have people sensitive to that. There's a neighbor a ways away from me up the hill that has it that didn't know they had it. And now they've got quite a bit of it, but it's not uncontrollable. Develop partnerships like the Nels Park neighborhood would be a good beginning. Educate land managers and encourage the public and private. We went to home shows and did that. That's good. The putt-putt golf course, I don't know what's happening there, but one of the problems is if you remove invasives, what takes their place? I have wire cages around a whole lot of plants at home. And I put in as many deer-proof things as I can. But, there's some things you just want, and the only way you can have them if you have fenced-in area or you put wires around them. So, but it would be nice if the public could see a place where this is what you plant once you get rid of the invasives. Because if you get rid of the invasives and you don't do anything else, you're going to have some kind of weed taking their place. And I don't know what's the best thing to put in because, the deer are part of the problem. If you plant something, are they going to allow it to grow or is it going to have problems? Seek funding. If you have a SISMA, you can say, well, we're representing everybody in New Ulm, including the DNR, the soil and water, whatever, the weed inspector people, the local property owners, all of that kind of stuff, rather than just, well, I'm Joe Gardner, I'd like some money to help with invasives. And then staff a coordinator to keep it all together somehow, because if you don't have a plan of action, then it's going to be just like that first slide was. It's going to be garlic mustard or buckthorn or wild parsnip or leafy spurge or whatever. There's got to be some kind of organized method, and I just don't see it happening. I mean, right now. I hope it'll happen, but not right now. So there you go. There's my 2 cents worth.
I got now one question for you.
Okay.
Now, when you have some of these heavy infestations in those areas, would you not be better off doing a chemical control of some sort? If you hit that early enough before the seeds would be viable, wouldn't you be able to cover more ground? And
on my website, it was like spray it really early. Spray it even in the wintertime because it's an evergreen. Mm-hmm. And if it's warm enough between October and March, that would be a good time to get it. But when I look at some of these environments, there's still some other plants that are green too. It's not the only evergreen plant. So, yes, I don't know. People ask me what to do about stuff, and it's like, well, if you spray it, and if you spray it at the right time, and if you were spot spraying it, that would be great if you could do that. But yeah, chemicals can do it, but they haven't been hugely successful.
Mr. Chair, members,
other sites.
Mr. Gardner, I'm wondering what you're asking this commission to do. What is there some specific actions?
Well, yeah, I think
specific action?
look into this SISMA thing because
Do you have access to a coordinator that?
I can do a report next time on that.
Okay.
And see. I don't know any other solution.
Sure. I have one other suggestion for you too. I don't know, and you probably have thought of this already, but the AmeriCorps program is involved is looking for local projects all the time for things to do, and you'd do well to coordinate and partner with AmeriCorps.
Well, I'm a retired person with some health issues, and I didn't even know if I could be able to do anything this spring. And I'm more than willing to help, but as far as leading, I can't do that. I can do some research and maybe get something going, and I'll help as much as I can. But I'll tell you the truth, the whole invasive thing, I mean, I'm old enough to be before a lot of the invasive stuff, and to see the world changing like it is, and a lot of you realize that this invasive thing is just.
Well, worms and night crawlers have been here since people landed on this continent from Europe, and dandelions were here for 200 years, and invasive carp, common carp, have been here since John Hauenstein and Father Berghold had their pond breakdown here in the 1800s. So it's not new. And, there are people that also realize that it's a long thing,
The graph, where it's like this, and then we're living at that age where it's hitting
It does take over, you're right, but there's
geometric.
also balances that happen afterwards, too. But, if there's some specific things that this commission
I
can
think
do.
the SISMA, I'll go and find out about
Okay.
that. I'll report back. You can see if that would be
Very
even
good.
something. And, there's got to be a group that starts everything. So if that gets to be
Yep,
something of interest, then that would be great.
good plan.
But it takes a group to do these things. And earthworms haven't been here forever. There's non-native earthworms that have
Well,
come in.
they're not native to they're not native to this continent. That's what I was getting across.
Oh, okay.
There was not an earthworm on this continent until people came from Europe,
Not in the northern part, yeah.
anywhere.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a fact.
Anyway, thank you.
Right, thank you for your time and commitment. Okay, item E has been addressed. Let's take a look at item F under old business, utility bill stuffer mailing. Flyers,
All right.
Swanson?
Commissioners, if you go to page 25 of the packet, or on the left side, utility bill stuffer. I guess I've addressed a few of the topics that have been brought up by either commissioners, advisory members, and I guess other interested parties. So here would be a listing of some of the top potential topics that have come up. We would still need to develop some of these, some of these topics for the stuffer. But I think at least by the end of this meeting, we would need to have those topics finalized. And then, I guess, just a page down from that topic listing. This is what's gone out in the past, kind of the full summary describing the various rebate programs. Certainly, if you are interested from this document, I would encourage you to pick up one of the rebate forms, either at the New Ulm Public Utilities office or at the City Hall offices. And then underneath that is a shorter version where if we did, if you decided you didn't want to dedicate one full side of the page to the rebate programs, this summarizes it in about a quarter of a page. So it gives you a few more options, a bit more flexibility there for highlighting the rebate programs. And then if you look at item 9, that is a potential item for just an update of the tree self-inventory. So with that, I'll open it up to discussion. If any of these topics seem promising, give feedback.
Mr. Chair, in light of our last two people that have presented information to this commission, it would almost seem imperative that further education awareness about both of those invasive, the buckthorn and the garlic mustard. And I know there's been a garlic mustard flyer that has gone out to the general public once, but maybe it's something we need to continue to reinforce and have some solutions for people and have some actions put in there for people, and I know it's quick, it's gotta get a quick turnaround on it, but I would just put that out and ask for your guys' thoughts on it.
Any comments or questions or feedback? What are you looking for specifically? Recommendations from the committee or?
Well,
Or, yeah.
me?
Either, yeah.
Oh,
Either
yeah,
way.
yeah, I was hoping to
Okay.
say, well, no, we should stick to, one of these 9
Mhm.
or 12 things. And they're all good.
Mhm.
And it does seem like we're continually putting out brush fires when it comes to the environment.
Mhm.
And we got a couple of them right now, and it's glaring us in the face. We got 2 people here talking about them.
Mhm.
To me, it seems like, when you have an issue that is as impactful on the natural order, that we would want to at the very least, let the public know that we think it's important enough to tell them about. So, I don't know where we got, who actually, maybe Mr. Schmitz can have some input as far as what that flyer that went out, I believe it was last year, about garlic mustard. Was that I don't think that was generated by us. Was it?
I'm not entirely certain on
Yeah.
those details, but, this topic is very important that we get at least your subject matters
Right,
out, so
right.
staff can prepare
Right.
this one piece of paper, 2-sided,
Right.
and get it to the billing office to get out in the mail,
Right.
within a week or 2.
Right.
So we're just looking for your subject matters, your topic matters, and you've got 2 sides of the piece of paper to work with. Our reimbursement programs, I would recommend be
Yeah.
in there somewhere.
One half of the page. How about the other half? The one half of that page could be dedicated to the garlic mustard, and the other half to, the buckthorn. What it looks like, what 5 things you could do as a citizen or something like that,
Yep.
to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, have the tree reimbursement page.
I guess I'd agree with that. I mean, I think we could do an invasive plant side, and the other side could be the rebate programs.
Yes.
It's hard to kind of find garlic mustard this time of year, because it's more of a March, April, May, June thing.
Well, that would be something that we would
They
put
could
on the
see-
flyer.
They could see the seed pods now, but I wouldn't advise any kind of picking or mowing or,
Right.
because it's dying now.
But the identification of it and the awareness of it,
They would know.
we only do this once a year, so.
They would know,
yeah.
maybe because of the pods.
But where I'm cutting down all these female buckthorn, it's, I only saw 2 potted plants, but the whole, everywhere, you could just see it sitting there.
There's as much you can do, I mean, other than.
But
yeah,
can't you,
could-
don't you, I
you
thought
could-
foaming Roundup, that you kill the plants now.
I'm just thinking, what can the average public person do?
Oh,
And it-
yeah.
It's
It's the
difficult
spring
in the
thing.
spring, it's
Yeah.
Right.
easier because you can
Yeah.
find it, because it's one of the
Right.
first plants there,
Right.
so, but,
Mhm.
I thought didn't we do a flyer twice a year? Don't we do an insert twice a year?
I think in some years we have had that availability.
I can see where we won't get a lot of bang for our buck if we do your program now. The people are going to forget about it by the time spring comes
Right.
around with the garlic mustard. I think it's better if we did do something, a flyer, if there was something, do it in spring. And people are more excited to get out there and maybe do something.
Well, that would be an opportunity to use up some of the 2018 budget that we talked about and put it to good use. So that might be something to look into at that time. But as far as subject matter for this, I would put it out, and it's just a recommendation, Mr. Chair, that we do one side with the tree, with the rebate, and the other side regarding buckthorn.
How about garlic mustard? Or
I-
just
I-
do
you
one at a
know,
time, garlic in the spring maybe?
I think we wait with the garlic mustard in
okay.
the spring, and if there's something else that we would want to put on a half a page along with the buckthorn, we could do that, you know.
Tom, you look like you're ready to say something, or?
Well, a couple of appropriate timely topics would be the number 4 on the list, protecting
Well,
trees from
yeah.
white-tailed deer rut.
I'd be all for that.
That's right now and into the autumn. So that could easily be in there. And then watering, we talked about tree care, making sure you're watering your trees appropriately at this time, late summer, autumn.
I think that 4 is.
And even autumn planting tips.
Yeah.
Do we need to make a recommendation? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
what is in order
Right.
for staff to prepare a final draft
Right.
for the commission,
Right.
we would need to narrow it down to the
Let's-
topics, and I think
Let's do it.
Let's do it. What do you guys think? Half of a page with the deer, half page with the buckthorn, and the reverse side with the reimbursement.
I think that would be good. We could cover more topics.
You know.
That way.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
So you got your
okay.
walking orders.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, let's see where we at here. Big Tree Contest 2017 Locust and 2018 Ideas, item G. We did select a winner, or you did?
Yes, Monday I went out and measured the trees that were listed in the packet that have been submitted, and the winning tree was at 1512 Center Street. Al Nut Grinders, it's on his property, and he submitted that. It was 151-inch circumference. So it was quite large
Big
compared
locust,
to the
yeah.
other ones that we
No
had.
kidding, that's big.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you for
Yes.
doing that. 2018 Ideas? Do we have a list, a working list?
Yes, you have in the packet there. See what-
Maybe we should make it the biggest buckthorn tree.
there you go. That'd be kind of
And then get
fun.
people out there.
It
and
has to
then-
be
and-
removed.
It has to be removed
Yeah,
then.
by the, whoever, well, anyway, we won't get any entries.
It's on page 41 of 54.
Okay. There we go.
Yep. Okay. Locust 2018. Oh, I see.
It's up to the commission here to select one. Is that what you're suggesting?
You don't have to choose it at this meeting,
Okay.
but
These are ideas.
yes, I would suggest, if not this meeting, maybe the next meeting, you choose it.
Sure. I see box elders on the list.
That was the first one that caught my eye too.
All right. Well, why don't we shelve that for a different meeting, but we can be thinking about, I can identify all these except a Kentucky coffee tree, but I
That's
guess.
the one that's got the,
Oh, the big, okay, massive leaves, okay, all right. Okay, so we'll do that, we'll table that for now. Item H, home show, any comments, feedback?
No action needed at this point.
Okay, excellent, good, good, good. All right, that concludes old business. And the item you had suggested, Lisa, that's coming up yet? We'll put that, or could we do it now?
Sure,
or-
we can do it now. I don't
Okay.
have a lot of details. I just know Doc Ann Vogel approached me and said, I'm not sure the name, is it the Goose Town, or what that gathering
Meekly
is?
Kite and Goose Town.
Yeah, it's August 13th, and she was hoping to have a representative, tree commission or Shane, be part of that, maybe to cover the tree inventory, demonstrate how a tree is measured, whatever, so I just told her I'd bring it up at this meeting.
Commissioners, yeah, I did speak with Ann Vogel recently, and she told me about this, and I agreed to assist in that. And I think I'll be free that day, so I don't think it'll be a problem.
Excellent, thank you.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, that's good publicity and get the word out a little bit. Excellent, okay. All right, first item of new business, we have a review list of acceptable trees. How do you pronounce it? Amur maple or Amur maple to be removed? Steve, you had some?
Mr. Chair, it's my understanding that at the last commission meeting, which I was not in attendance, that the commission made a motion to recommend that maple be removed from the acceptable tree list. Mr. Schmidt asked if I could forward that to the recommendation to the city council, and my reply was, are we certain that the tree commission has done a comprehensive review? I'd hate to take it there and then 2 months from now have another recommendation. So I don't know if you had a chance to actually go through the entire list or you just picked out one particular tree. So we just put it on the agenda with the hope that you could give us some direction. Do you need some more time? Are you satisfied with just that one particular tree being removed? And then we can take that to the city council when you're comfortable.
Yes.
Ellen Vancura, 833 Cottonwood Street. As far as the Amur maple, I researched it and discussed it 2 months ago at this. Last time I had the exact non-invasive, but yes, it is invasive, and it should not be planted within 50 to 100 yards of forest, which is, and I'm trying to control leafy spurge in our little pond, and I am now cutting out Amur maple. It is invasive, and it really should not be planted.
I agree.
It's I think of concern. Anyway, it's invasive.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's got 1,000 seeds, and it self-seeds itself all over our community property. So, yeah. And there was one other thing. Oh, one about the Gametli-kite in Goosetown. I was asked last year by Dr. Ann and so I did a buckthorn. I spent the whole day there, and it was a lovely, I don't know, I enjoyed it, and it would, a lot of interesting things, and it would be talking about trees, whatever. What is it that you're going to talk about, Shane, that she wanted you to talk about?
Her suggestion was for me to come and talk about the inventory, maybe give demonstrations.
Yeah.
On the table there.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can go this year, but if I can, I will. But if you're there, then, okay.
Well, you're more than welcome to leave some materials or something, and I can talk about it if you can't make it.
Yeah, oh, sure. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your input. Okay, under new business, receive the proposed preliminary Broadway tree planting plan.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I could back up 1 second, I guess I'm still looking for direction on that tree list. Do you want some time to comprehensively review it, or have you done that? Or, I mean, I appreciate Doctor's comments that maple should be removed, but is there anything else you want to consider?
Commissioners,
Well,
any feedback?
yeah.
Excuse me, Chair and members, I'll just jump in here that you received, one of the papers that you received here is from William, and we also received an email that didn't come in time from another staff member about this topic. And so my recommendation might be for you to review this over the next 2 months and come up with a comprehensive opinion on the list.
Okay.
Just my thought.
And I guess if I may also comment as the submittee of that, it appears that many of the trees that I have listed here, may not be appropriate for our general planting list. However, they are trees that, I may have questions for. They may be plantable within this range for southern Minnesota, or may have questions on them. And I think it would be maybe wise to at least give that some review before moving forward.
Mr. Chair, members, I have one question, and I appreciate all of the feedback to this point about that. I have a question that is in regards to the lawfulness part of this. It says here, City of New Ulm, acceptable shade and boulevard tree species. Is a person breaking the law, or is there an ordinance, or what is the genesis of this list? Is it from ordinance, or is it just, this is what we've decided? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I could answer that question, hopefully. There is an ordinance that requires an adjacent property owner to get a permit to plant a tree within the public right-of-way. And that is where this list was generated from. The ordinance points to the boulevard tree and shrub policy, and this is in the back of that. So, yes, you have to get a permit to plant a tree, and it has to be on the acceptable list. This is for boulevard trees,
Right.
not for in your
Right.
backyard or anything
Right,
like
right,
that.
right, right.
So,
Yep. You've answered my question.
I
Thank you,
believe
sir.
that was generated about 2002.
Okay,
Okay.
And then,
thank you.
I may also
Yes.
also add to that. This document we use in general for the relief program as a resource guide for customers. So if you'll notice, the relief portion tends to be, I guess, PUC shade program tends to be a bit less restrictive as far as which trees can qualify. However, since it is just kind of a general resource for customers, it's best to have it kind of as comprehensive as possible.
Mr. Chair, members, one more question. Could a person who was just in love with an Austrian pine tree or a eastern white pine or something, could they ask for a variance with this regard, bring it before the council and have it be approved?
Mr. Chair, I'm not aware of any variance process with regard to this.
Or appeal, or whatever you want to call it.
Correct, I guess. Did you say an evergreen?
Well, not just something that you like that isn't on the list.
Okay.
Let's say or let's say river birch. I wanted to plant a river birch. I really love river birch. My family's named after river birch, and I just want to have a birch tree in front of my place on the boulevard, and I'm asking the city to allow me to do that with a special permit or a variance or an allowance to have that because of special circumstances.
Well, I would say at this point in time, there's not
No.
a variance process.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we've reached the end of the agenda, am I correct?
No.
Or did we address the?
I backed you up, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
I
you did,
apologize.
sorry about that, right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue on.
Yeah, I know you have a long agenda here and it's getting late, but
That's all right.
I wanted to at least get this before this group, along with this Highway 15 project from 7th North out to the south end of the city limits. The state has done a mill and overlay, or they're in the process of that. And they've also removed several trees. I believe in the removal tab, there was approximately 27 trees listed. The exact number that have been removed, I'm not certain. But as part of their project, or in addition to that, They've agreed to have a landscaping or tree planting plan initiated and hopefully completed this fall. And they asked the city to do an inventory, or we suggested we would. Shane went out, Mr. Omersa, and did an inventory of what was there, and that's what this plan is. The red are the existing trees, the green are the suggested new plants. And we sent this, I think we've got 44 suggested plantings. We're trying to stay away from, sightline problems and planting over curb stop boxes and the things that get us into problems to begin with. We sent this into the state for their review as well, and they kicked it upstairs to their arborist someplace in St. Paul. The first thing they came back to was they would prefer that, well, they didn't say they didn't want us to plant the alder, but that they have a low branch structure and that the city would have to agree to kind of an aggressive pruning schedule if we wanted to plant those. And we said, how about if we substitute Kentucky coffee tree for those alders? So we have done that, hopefully with the blessing of this group. So that's the only change to the planning schedule that I have to share with you. They will develop the plan further. It's probably short notice if you've had time to look at it, but you can certainly take some more time if you'd like. But it is in the process. We hope to get these planted this fall.
Excellent. Thank you. All right.
I had a question. Are they replacing every tree that they took down, or how does this compare to how many were cut and how many are being put in?
The short answer is no, they are not. And again, for the reason that may have been planted on top of a curb stop box, and then when you want to dig up your water service, you got to take the tree out. Might have been a sightline problem. So I don't have that exact correlation listed because I don't have an inventory of what was removed, but we attempted to infill or replace wherever it made sense.
There were people really upset about the trees coming out, and people.
I understand that, but
Spoke with.
the state had an arborist go through and poked and prodded, and several of those larger diameter trees were rotten inside, and when they came down, it was quite obvious they needed to be removed. So these are the experts.
Right. I was just
we trusted
hoping we
them.
replace as many as possible. I think it
Exactly.
makes our city look nice,
Right.
looks more appealing.
Right, so of the 27 listed to be removed, we're putting 44 back, so we're also infilling in our logical locations.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Kaler, would it be helpful if this commission endorsed the plan for you now at this point, with the one change of alder being eliminated and Kentucky coffee being added? I would think this is a timely topic for you if you'd like their endorsement.
Mr. Chair, members, I would offer that as a motion.
Okay.
I'd second it.
We have a motion, a second, to accept let's restate that, the proposed Broadway tree planting plan with the substitution of the, was it the alder? coming
Eliminating
out?
the alder and adding Kentucky coffee.
Okay. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, passed. Motion is passed, okay?
Great,
good.
thank you much.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chair, motion to adjourn?
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah.
I got a tree commission meeting